Did you know some luxury cars were so far ahead of their time that even BMW and Mercedes felt threatened? But history barely remembers them? Today, we're counting down 7 forgotten luxury cars that burned bright, broke all the rules, then vanished without a trace. Number 7. Volkswagen Phaeton. Did you know Volkswagen spent $1.4 billion on the Phaeton luxury sedan? Yes, the same brand that gave you the Jetta and Golf decided to build a $100,000 flagship. On paper, this thing had no business existing. Why would the people's car brand suddenly decide to build a 6-figure luxury sedan to rival Mercedes and BMW? The answer comes down to one man, Ferdinand Piëch, the legendary and often called mad genius CEO of Volkswagen. The Phaeton was his personal passion project, his swan song before retirement. He didn't just want a good car, he wanted the best car in the world. His instructions? The Phaeton had to drive 186 miles per hour all day long in desert heat while keeping the cabin at a perfect 72 degrees. That wasn't a suggestion. That was a command. And when Piëch gave an order, engineers didn't roll their eyes, they rolled up their sleeves. So Volkswagen went all in. Underneath, the Phaeton shared its bones with the Bentley Continental and Flying Spur. Under the hood, you could get a 4.2-liter V8, a stump-pulling 5.0-liter V10 diesel, or the crown jewel, a 6.0-liter W12, the same exotic engine you'd expect in a Bentley, not in a Volkswagen. The car was so over-engineered, it racked up over 100 patents. If this thing was any more excessive, it would have come with its own butler. And once you were inside this car, the Phaeton didn't just whisper luxury, it shouted it in German. Thick leather, real wood, polished metal, and enough seat adjustments to confuse a chiropractor. In long wheelbase versions, every passenger basically had their own climate system. Want the back left corner of the car to feel like the Alps and the front right like the Sahara? The Phaeton could do it. Add in 4-zone climate control, power everything, and a cabin quieter than a library at midnight, and you had one of the most comfortable rides in the world. So why don't you see them everywhere? The problem was never the car, it was the badge. People just couldn't wrap their heads around paying $100,000 for a Volkswagen in the early 2000s. To most buyers, it looked like a slightly larger Passat. Same grille, same taillight vibe, same understated design language. You could have the finest materials and a Bentley engine, but if the neighbor thinks you bought a fancy Jetta, what's the point? And then came the maintenance. All that precision engineering made it one of the most complex Volkswagens ever built. Fixing one out of warranty was like doing open-heart surgery on a German elephant. Painful, expensive, and guaranteed to scare away second-hand buyers. The Phaeton was brilliant but doomed. A car that proved even perfection won't sell if people don't believe the badge. And the next luxury car we're about to talk about? Let's just say it didn't deserve the suffering. Number 6. Hyundai Equus. Picture this. It's 2011, and a salesman says, "Sir, may I interest you in a $60,000 luxury sedan?" You're intrigued until he adds, "It's a Hyundai." That was usually the punchline, and most people just laughed and went to Mercedes. But here's the twist. The Equus wasn't a joke at all. Thing is, you can't just wake up one day and sell a $60,000 luxury car in America. Hyundai knew that, and this wasn't their first rodeo. Back in 1999, they sold the first-gen Equus in Korea, and it was basically a knockoff Mercedes S-Class with a Korean accent. It did well at home, but Hyundai knew Americans weren't ready to drop luxury money on a brand that built Excels and Elantras, so they waited. And then, in 2011, fresh off the success of the Genesis sedan, Hyundai decided it was time to swing for the fences. The result? A $58,000 full-size sedan with one goal: take on the Germans. And when you actually looked at the spec sheet, it wasn't just wishful thinking. On paper, the Equus was stacked. The signature trim gave you everything: real leather, real wood, adaptive cruise, air suspension, a 17-speaker Lexicon sound system, and the ultimate trim basically told the driver to shut up and enjoy the back seat. Reclining, massaging chairs, footrests, rear entertainment screens, even a mini fridge. It was less a Hyundai, more a business-class lounge on wheels. And Hyundai didn't just rethink the car, they rethought the whole luxury experience. No awkward dealer haggling, no greasy sales pitch. Instead, they sent a car to your driveway for a test drive. Bought one? You got an iPad as the owner's manual, which also scheduled your service. Need maintenance? Hyundai picked up your car and dropped off a loaner. Mercedes wasn't doing that. BMW wasn't doing that. Hyundai was basically rolling out red carpet service for half the price. Of course, all the gadgets and service perks wouldn't matter if the car itself didn't deliver. Under the hood, the first cars came with a 4.6-liter V8 making 385 horsepower, upgraded in 2012 to a 5.0-liter V8 with 429 horsepower. Smooth, quiet rear-wheel drive, the kind of effortless power delivery you'd expect from a six-figure German sedan, except this one was about $30,000 cheaper. So what went wrong? Unfortunately, the badge was the problem here as well. Luxury buyers weren't ready to say, "I spent $60,000 on a Hyundai." To most, the Equus looked like a dressed-up Sonata in a suit borrowed from an Audi A8. It blended into traffic when it should have been turning heads. Hyundai had built the right car at the wrong time. Number 5. Cadillac CT6. You know, there was a running joke about Cadillac owners that they were somewhere between 60 and death? Well, in 2016, Cadillac decided they had enough of that punchline. They wanted to prove the world wrong, so they dropped the CT6, a sleek, sharp-edged sedan designed to drag Cadillac's image out of retirement homes and straight into the fight with the Germans. But here's what made it different. Cadillac wasn't just trying to build another big car. They were trying to rewrite the definition of American luxury itself. And the first impression? Honestly, it worked. The CT6 looked sharp, clean, and athletic. Gone were the bloated shapes and goofy fins. This thing had presence without excess. Underneath, engineers created a brand new aluminum and steel chassis, making it lighter and stiffer than rivals. Translation? This big American sedan didn't wallow like a boat. It cornered with confidence. Reviewers were shocked. Cadillac, of all brands, had built a car that could hustle down a back road and still feel composed. But Cadillac wasn't done surprising people. Open the door, and suddenly the CT6 felt less like a Florida condo and more like a Manhattan penthouse. Out went the plastic wood and vinyl leather of old. In came genuine Opus leather, brushed metal, and even carbon fiber. Platinum trims wrapped you in the good stuff everywhere you touched. And the rear seats? Forget comfortable. They reclined, heated, cooled, and even massaged. Riding in the back of a CT6 felt less like commuting and more like vacationing. And with Cadillac's obsessive noise insulation, the cabin was so silent, it felt like the outside world had been put on mute. But just when you thought Cadillac had gone soft, focusing only on comfort, they decided to remind everyone that performance was still in their DNA. In 2019, they unveiled the Blackwing 4.2-liter twin-turbo V8, a hand-built monster making up to 550 horsepower. It wasn't just powerful, it was Cadillac showing off. Smooth, brutal, and paired with all-wheel drive, it gave the CT6 the chops to stare down AMG and BMW M sedans. And to sweeten the deal, Cadillac added Super Cruise, GM's first hands-free driving system. And unlike most early attempts at autonomy, this one actually worked. Just when you thought the CT6 was going to be a big hit, reality hit them like a punch to the face. Buyers dropping six figures didn't want a Cadillac crest. They wanted a star, a roundel, or 4 rings. Some nitpicked the midsize interior space, others complained about recycled GM switchgear, and despite Cadillac's best efforts, the old Florida retiree stigma never really went away. By 2020, Cadillac pulled the plug, killing a sedan that deserved a far better fate. Number 4. Infiniti Q45. Imagine it's 1989. Toyota just pulled the rug out from under Mercedes and BMW with the amazing Lexus LS400, a luxury sedan so quiet you could hear your own ego inflating while driving it. Now, Nissan wasn't about to sit back and clap politely, so they unleashed the Infiniti Q45, a bold new flagship aimed at stealing some spotlight. But instead of mimicking Lexus, Infiniti went in a completely different direction, one that was bold, unusual, and sometimes downright confusing. At first glance, the Q45 didn't look like your typical luxury car. While Lexus played it safe with a mini Mercedes vibe, Infiniti wanted to make a statement. Their answer? Ditch the grille altogether. It was bold, it was different, and it definitely got people talking. To many buyers, it looked unfinished, even strange. However, once you set aside the styling controversies and minor flaws like softer-than-expected handling, the car revealed its real strength, performance. Power came from the brand-new VH45DE, a 4.5-liter aluminum V8 with dual overhead cams, variable valve timing, and a screaming red line close to 7,000 RPM. This wasn't some lazy luxury motor. It cranked out 278 horsepower and 292 pound-feet of torque, numbers that put it ahead of most rivals in 1990. Reviewers called it a rocket, hitting 0 to 60 in just over 7 seconds and running the quarter mile in the mid-15. For a big sedan with a brand new badge, that was no joke. And Infiniti didn't stop there. They doubled down with technology that made the Germans sweat. There was available four-wheel steering, which shrank the car's footprint and made it feel far more agile than its size suggested. For the deep-pocketed buyers, an optional $5,000 active suspension used hydraulics and sensors to keep the car flat through corners, tech so advanced that Mercedes and BMW wouldn't offer anything comparable for years. Add in traction control, a Bose stereo, power everything, and even keyless entry, and the Q45 was destined for great legacy. But here's where the story takes a weird turn. While the hardware was good, the marketing wasn't. Toyota's Lexus sold the dream of understated perfection, smooth, quiet, classy. But Infiniti leaned into being different. Their launch ads, bizarre shots of rocks, waves, and trees, but never the car itself. It was more of a spa retreat than a luxury sedan commercial, and for an unknown brand, that left Americans scratching their heads. Was Infiniti selling cars or aromatherapy? That gamble didn't pay off. The Q45, for all its tech and performance, never escaped the shadow of the Lexus LS400. Today, it's mostly forgotten. A fascinating, ambitious experiment that proved Nissan could build a world-class luxury sedan, but couldn't convince enough people to buy it. Before we reveal the final three, don't forget to hit the like button and comment below which forgotten luxury car you love the most. Number 3. Stutz Blackhawk. It's 1971, the nightclub lights are flashing and cameras are snapping like mad. Out steps Elvis Presley. Not in a Cadillac, not in a Rolls-Royce, but in something even more outrageous, the Stutz Blackhawk. At the time, it was the most expensive car in the world, carrying a base price of $22,500, which is about $180,000 in today's money. Loaded up with options, and some buyers pushed theirs to nearly $75,000, around a whopping $600,000. The Blackhawk wasn't just another luxury car, it was a rolling ego boost. Styled by Virgil Exner, the man who once made Chrysler tail fins a national obsession, this car was designed to be noticed. Long hood, hidden headlights, side pipes, and a grille so oversized it looked like it could inhale a Volkswagen. It had "Look at me" written all over it. Park it next to a Mercedes or Cadillac, and suddenly those cars looked like sensible family sedans. But the real magic happened once you opened the door. Forget leather seats and wood trim. Those were standard features in the luxury world. The Blackhawk turned excess into an art form. We're talking 24-karat gold-plated switches, real burled walnut or bird's eye maple trim, and carpets so plush you could order them in mink. Yes, mink carpets. Even the gauges could be customized in English or Italian, depending on how continental you wanted to feel while checking your speed. Of course, none of this flash would matter if it drove like a parade float. Stutz had that covered too. Most Blackhawks came with a Pontiac 455 cubic inch V8 under the hood, tuned to make sure this giant luxury coupe wasn't embarrassed at a stoplight. Over the years, Stutz mixed and matched power plants. Oldsmobile, Cadillac, Chevrolet, even Ford's Cobra Jet V8. But the formula was the same. Big displacement, plenty of torque, and a sound that let everyone know you had money to burn. It wasn't a race car, but let's be honest. When you were cruising down Sunset Boulevard in a car that cost more than some houses, speed wasn't really the point. And that's what made the Stutz brilliant. It combined Italian coach building with American reliability, giving owners the best of both worlds. A car that looked like pure art but still ran on the same bones as a Pontiac. So while Rolls-Royces were expensive to service and Ferraris needed constant attention, the Stutz was exotic luxury you could actually live with. Number 2. Aston Martin Lagonda Series 2. Picture this. It's 1976. Aston Martin is barely holding it together, and the accountants are breathing down everyone's necks. Enter the Lagonda Series 2, a car so bold it could make a banker spill his tea. But this wasn't just another car. It was Aston Martin's knight in shining armor, a four-door sedan designed to rescue the company from financial doom. And rescue it did. Hundreds of deposits flooded in as soon as people saw it, giving Aston Martin cash in the bank and a story nobody would forget. But while it saved the company, the Lagonda had to make a statement, and boy, did it shock the world. From the outside, the Lagonda looked like no other car on the road. Long, sharp, and impossibly angular, it could have been described as folded paper from the future. Compared to the polite, boxy sedans of the 1970s, the Lagonda shouted, "I am rich, I am futuristic, and I don't care what you think." Honestly, it had a presence that made you wonder if other luxury sedans had been invited to the party but forgot to dress up. And just when you thought the exterior had taken all the attention, the interior promised to raise the stakes even higher. Step inside, and the madness only escalated. The Series 2 Lagonda was the first production car in the world with a fully digital dashboard. Yes, a digital dashboard in the 1970s. Green LED displays, touch-sensitive buttons, and a single-spoke steering wheel that looked like it belonged in a spacecraft. It was bewildering, dazzling, and utterly futuristic. Passengers often didn't know where to look first and wondered if the car might actually take off. And of course, Aston Martin wasn't just chasing looks, they wanted performance to match the drama. So beneath that futuristic skin was a hand-built 5.3-liter V8 borrowed from the V8 Vantage, which pumped out 280 horsepower. With a Chrysler 3-speed TorqueFlite automatic doing the shifting, the Lagonda was built for effortless dominance. That's why it delivered insane numbers like 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds and top speed approaching 150 miles per hour. And if you thought luxury stopped at speed, think again. Inside, Aston Martin spared no expense. Thick premium leather, hand-finished trim, and carpet so soft you'd forget you were in a car at all. Every button, every glowing readout, every angle of that wild single-spoke wheel screamed, "You are driving something extraordinary." Some found it bewildering, some adored it, but nobody ignored it. And even as it amazed everyone, reality was waiting just around the corner. Brilliance, after all, comes at a cost. The Lagonda carried an outrageous price tag of around $25,000 in the late 1970s, and while it could have been a long-term flagship, the market simply wasn't ready for it. Only 645 units were sold during its 14-year production run from 1976 to 1990. Making it a spectacular fail for the automaker. But if you value innovation, this was a huge success. Number 1. Rolls-Royce Camargue. It's 1975, and Rolls-Royce has been quietly making cars for the rich and powerful for decades. But behind closed doors, the boardroom was restless. They wanted something bold, something that screamed money without saying a word. Enter Sergio Pininfarina, the famous Italian designer who normally made Ferraris look like runway models. Rolls-Royce gave him a challenge. Make it outrageous, make it unforgettable, and make it cost enough that people choke. Pininfarina accepted with a smirk on his face. And just like that, the Camargue was born. And this wasn't just another Rolls-Royce. The Camargue was rewriting the rules of the brand. For starters, it was their first two-door model in decades, and the first car designed entirely by an outsider. The body looked like a silver shadow had been given a dose of Italian audacity. Sleek, wide, low, and impossible to ignore. Some critics joked it looked like a Lincoln in a tuxedo. Awkward, expensive, and undeniably noticeable. Even James May from Top Gear called it a pug-faced but well-dressed man, which, honestly, is probably the best compliment a car can get. And if the exterior turned heads, the interior promised to completely blow minds. Step inside, and the Camargue raised luxury to almost absurd heights. The leather seats were so soft they practically hugged you. The carpets were lamb's wool, and there was even a cocktail cabinet in the back for when your chauffeur is driving. You know, because why not sip a martini while rolling through Beverly Hills? But the real headline grabber was the air conditioning system. It was the first two-tier system in the world, keeping driver and passenger perfectly comfortable no matter the weather outside. That may not sound wild now, but in 1975, it was practically science fiction. And just when you thought the interior had peaked, the dashboard was like, hold my beer. It was like a control panel from a spaceship. Buttons, dials, and gauges everywhere. It looked complicated, futuristic, and completely unnecessary. But it worked. Well, mostly. The car wasn't about speed, it wasn't about practicality. It was about showing off, and with a 6.75-liter V8 under the hood, it had enough smooth power to cruise in perfect smooth silence. So even with all this, the Camargue remained a car for the boldest buyers. With a price tag of £29,200 in 1975, roughly double a Silver Shadow, few could step up. Only 529 were made over a 12-year production run. It was too daring, too unusual, too divisive to ever become mainstream, but that is exactly what made it unforgettable. We hope you enjoyed this video. Here's another one you won't want to miss. As always, thanks for watching.